Let's go.
Let's get ready to rumble.
We hear it all the time. Experience required. To Lee Baxter, this couldn't be further from the truth. A successful tattoo shop owner, he saw opportunity in the boxing world and came out swinging. With fearless determination, Lee learned what he could about the business of boxing by doing the unthinkable, jumping into the shark-infested waters they're known by. Now promoting with the likes of Floyd Mayweather and Samuel Vargas, Lee has put Canada back on the map and is on the hunt for the next world champion. Will he be the new Don or the new king of boxing? Ladies and gentlemen, Lee Baxter.
Straight out of the T-Dot.
That's what it is.
Live from the 6 boroughs.
Don't go nowhere.
For sure. Welcome to Standing in the 6 with your hosts, Michael and Constantine.
Good morning. Good morning. I am absolutely excited, Mike, but I'm also very, very irritated. Okay, I'm gonna just dive right into this. Canada. No, stop.
You're excited, but you're irritated.
Irritated, yes. I gotta tell you this.
Okay.
I'm actually getting very irritated with Canadians. Okay, very irritated.
Ooh, the room says,
Jerry, we're Canadians, right? Like we're all here Canadians.
Absolutely.
Okay. What's happened to people with winter? I mean, people don't know how to function anymore. Okay? Honestly.
Don't get me started.
Okay, I mean, buses canceling, schools getting canceled. I mean, this is insane.
You know what it is? Two words.
What?
Wind chill.
Wind chill?
Yeah, the wind chill factor, which coincidentally in the weather report never existed 10, 15 years ago. I heard some guy rant. He's like, when the hell did someone make up this wind chill? Feels like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
it's insane.
Yeah.
Look, other provinces, Montreal, Quebec, they're looking at us and thinking these guys are getting hysterical. News every 2 minutes. We're about to expect some record-breaking snow. We're talking about 15, 20 meters of snow here. What has happened to Canada? Have we forgotten how to function in snow?
I think
No,
so.
it's just Toronto.
Is it Toronto?
Yeah. It is just Toronto because everybody else across the country deals with it. It's like it's something we have every year. It doesn't go away. I mean, I'm X years old, since I'm an intern, I can't say my age. But anyways, since I've been around for a long time, I just watch it and I just kind of cringe every time somebody complains about, the snow or the cold. And I'm like, get over yourselves. You've been living in this for X amount of years.
But to actually, I think a week ago, for the first time, I think they said in like 15 years, a school was canceled. The entire Toronto District School Board was canceled. All their schools. Because of, I guess, a little bit of snow and freezing rain.
Yes.
What is happening here?
It's called safety.
Oh my, just bring in the tanks. Let's get Mel Lastman here and bring in the tanks, right? I mean, bring in the army, the whole thing. Do you remember that? Oh my goodness.
Oh boy.
And the thing is, I feel bad for the parents that have kids that depend on school buses because literally every single, I think last week, 4 times they canceled the school bus in the Durham district.
Are you kidding me?
4
that
times.
Often? Soft, as they say, soft.
I mean, how is it in the film industry, Jerry? I mean, do actors just say they can't make it? Do producers say, I'm done, I can't make it? Like, what?
Oh, no. I mean, you knew we were filming next door at the Lower Bay subway station last episode, why I couldn't make it. And I mean, you saw how it was. It was freezing cold, snowing, and we were just there doing our stuff. You just work. You don't complain. You just work.
That's what it is. I had a privilege of working on The Strain. And
right.
On the last season of The Strain by Guillermo del Toro, Carlton
I love
Cuse,
that guy.
and Miles Dale, who won Best Picture for Shape of Water. Actually, shout out to them. The Strain is known. It was like Toronto's Revenant. The Revenant set, which was notorious for basically people were quitting and they just couldn't handle the cold.
Really?
Yeah. So for The Strain, they did mostly night shoots, and it was crazy.
Well, I think as Canadians, we need to get tougher. Okay,
Yes.
And maybe people need to do what I did back in the day.
Maybe as Torontonians, let's be fair.
Torontonians.
Okay, Torontonians. By the way, before I say what we need to do, a buddy of mine this morning at the gym was telling me that in Philadelphia, they were doing a basketball tournament and all over the news, get ready. It's like pressing news because they're expecting 2 to 3 centimeters of snow in Philadelphia. And they were just panicking. And I was thinking it's funny because that's what probably the rest of the country is thinking about Toronto. Look at these guys panicking over 15, 20 meters of snow.
It gridlocks the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
we used to live in a small town about 210 miles east of here. See how old I am? I'm not using metric.
yeah.
And the snow, when we grew up as kids here in Toronto and then we moved to Brockville, I mean, the snow there was just way deeper and just a lot more than what, because it's part of the snow belt. So there, it's like, oh my God, we were like having a blast as kids, how much snow you can get there. I mean, it's not that Toronto wasn't, getting any, but there, and then we were loving it. So now when people complain, it's like just a little bit of snow and a little bit of anything. Like people can't drive in the rain. I mean, it's crazy. I spend my life on the road scouting and managing locations, and I'm just cringing.
Scared.
I'm scared to death to be on the road every time I get out there as soon as it starts to rain.
Right.
And a little bit of snow and sleet. Oh, forget it.
People are probably live streaming as they're driving. That's the truth. That's exactly why.
That's literally what's happening, Mike.
Yeah.
That's literally what's happening.
Speaking of, whenever you say like, oh man, I miss those days, just building a snow fort, going crazy,
Yeah.
building that huge bunker of perfect snowballs. You'd pack them till they're basically a rock, which is probably illegal right now.
Probably.
Me and my brothers used to put them in the freezer. I'm not joking. We used to pack them, stick them in the
Wow.
freezer. Like we
Yeah.
went next level. When you got a whole neighborhood of kids that have nothing to do,
Right.
they take it next level.
And now what are they building?
I don't know, probably some virtual town in a video game.
Yeah, exactly.
Sitting at home brushing their hair.
Whenever I think about like snowstorms and stuff, I always remember The Simpsons when Bart was procrastinating for an assignment.
Yes.
And then he basically prays and says, "Look, God.
Oh, yes. I
just
remember that.
Give me more time."
Yeah.
And then he wakes up the next morning
Oh, man.
and there's a huge snowfall and everyone it's like the best scene ever. I'm gonna try to we should probably put it up. But literally, he opens the front door to go play.
Right.
And then he gets that check, his conscience, that he's like, oh man, I asked if I could actually have extra time to study. But the image that they put of like there's literally like horses and people sledding and like
Everyone's having a jolly old day.
whimsical. It's like the definition of whimsical.
Right.
Yeah, which is not Toronto.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if that happened, people wouldn't know what to do, but
For me, I love the weather. I'll say this. Whenever the weather's really, really bad,
Yeah.
I actually purposely go out. I purposely go out with my family.
Right.
So when there's a crazy snowfall, we'll get in my SUV and we'll drive to like a forest or trails and we'll walk and we literally, because I actually teach my kids, don't let the weather dictate.
So remember the
what you're
notes
gonna
of
do.
remember the notes of a sociopath. Creates hard snowballs, goes out to the forest in the weather.
Hey,
No, but
I go hiking as well,
Yeah.
on the bad days, because it's like, and I grab my camera because
beautiful.
I get some of the prettiest pictures.
And there's not that many people. I was just talking about that with somebody yesterday. When the city is scared, that's when I go out and frolic.
Really?
Yes, I frolic. Okay,
I love
that's
that
the
word.
And I mean, even for rain or nothing, if it's just a torrential downpour, we'll literally put on proper gear and we purposely go out. I've even taken my kids and told them, don't like cower from the rain like it's acid rain. I did this with them since they're little kids, for them just to look up and let the rain hit their face and to be fine with rain hitting them. And then they just enjoy the rest of their time.
That's good, man.
Yeah, and if you're wet, you'll dry one day, right? It's funny. This guy, you're like, I've seen you run from the rain like it's acid. Like, you're like, oh my goodness, quick,
When
get
I
in the
had
car.
hair, when I had hair, yes. When I had hair, yes, but not now.
Curly Constantine.
But look,
See, that's what happens with the acid rain. It's like we have no hair left.
That's right.
You and
There
me
you go.
both. We
And-
spent
and-
too much time outdoors.
and it doesn't hit Mike's head because he has all this nice product in his hair right now. So,
Shoe polish.
but look, speaking of toughness and the Torontonians being tough, I think it's nice to segue into who our guest is today.
Ding, ding, ding.
We got Lee Baxter
Yes.
from Lee Baxter Promotions here. And Mike, who's Lee Baxter?
Lee Baxter is a boxing promoter in the city. Yes, boxing is alive and well. Growing up, after Muhammad Ali, after Rocky, after Mike Tyson, but boxing was kind of everything. It was this huge world. I as a little kid, I remember those pay-per-views still. Like, I remember having knots in my stomach and like all my uncles, everyone getting together. Boxing was crazy. What I love is guys like Lee, they are like that conduit. They are making sure that the boxing scene is alive and well for there's still thousands of people that box. It's a specialty and we need more specialists. To me, it's really cool that he's actually a big part of that. He's got a chance to work with Floyd Mayweather, promoting for some of the fights. And Lee Baxter, you'll hear his name today, but you're going to hear it more often.
Absolutely. And we got to thank Jerry because Jerry was able to connect us with Lee. So thank you for that, Jerry.
Oh, you're welcome. This guy's awesome.
Yeah, you know where they met? They did a pottery class at the local community
Yes,
center.
that's right.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
making an ashtray or something. I don't know.
We will not play Unchained Melody. Okay, so just relax yourself.
Well, look, man, and enough talking. Let's bring the Lee in,
Yeah,
man.
that's it. All right, sounds good.
All right, let's bring him in.
Ding, 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 ding.
Let's go.
We got Lee Baxter. Lee Baxter in the house.
Yes.
From Lee Baxter Promotions, Boxing Promotions. Your name sounds almost like a stage name, like Lee Baxter.
You know, people have been saying that for the last couple of years, and I was really on the fence with using my name because I thought the complete opposite my whole life. But I guess it's because it's your own name, right? You don't
Right.
think it.
It's funny like that. Huh?
Yeah.
What's yours? Sometimes people have to tell you, the goods that you got. It has an iconic ring to it. Lee Baxter. Some names you hear them and it's just like, okay, what does that guy do? Lee Baxter. You expect that you're doing something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
We want to dive into let people know who you are, what you're doing and stuff. I mean, before we get into the whole boxing element of things, which I find extremely interesting. I had a little bit of time in boxing, okay? And maybe some names that
Hey,
you might know.
I didn't know
Did
that.
you know that?
No.
Yeah, so back years ago,
Okay.
without disclosing my age, I was...
Just to let you know, the internet's crazy these days.
Yeah.
You'll find out everything.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it's true. Yeah,
Without
yeah.
disclosing your age.
if you're going to tell me you're an undefeated amateur boxer, we'll find out the
No,
truth
you find out
real
the
quick.
truth. No.
Exactly.
There was a gym. I live in the Durham region, okay, and there's a gym in Pickering called, at that time, Liverpool Boxing Gym.
Okay.
And the guy that was one of the trainers there, which you probably know because it's in your same lane, is Tyler Buxton.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is when I forgot the gentleman's name, the main guy that was the trainer, but he was one of the trainers, and I kind of got in there for about a year doing, and I found it to be some of the best training ever. Okay, I mean, cardiovascular setup. I mean, it just took me to a whole new level.
Gas in the tank, man. That's boxers got gas in the
Unbelievable,
tank. Yeah,
unbelievable.
that's what it is.
And then I just, after a year, just was done.
Stopped.
Like, just stopped, and I just kind of went back into it. And
How old were you when you started?
Man, I would say at least 24, 25.
That's good.
Yeah. So when
Okay.
I started it, and I
So
considered
when you started shaving. He's joking.
probably 11.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I found it to be one of the best, training that I've ever done, and still to this day. With that said, how did you get into the whole mix? How did you just dive into the boxing scene?
So with me, it wasn't really necessarily the product. It was more the process of what we wanted to do. Boxing just happened to land as the product. I looked at Toronto. I own a tattoo shop, and I don't tattoo myself, but I was going after anyone that had any type of influence in the city, athletes, celebrities, musicians, and I got invited to a boxing match it was actually Tyler Buxton's boxing match.
Really?
In Mississauga, and one of the athletes that was fighting was Samuel Vargas. There was a lot of people cheering for him, and after the fight, I heard the kid wanted a tattoo, so I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." Needless to say, now about 12 years later and being best friends, I found out that no one was his fan.
Really?
So I thought if I brought him to the tattoo shop, we'd get more clients. But either way, we just ended up tattooing him. And long story short, I got into it with him more discussing like how the industry works. And it was really fascinating. But what I felt was when I was at that show, there was a lot of people out in Mississauga at the Hershey Center for that show. And it was interesting because all these people would come together and go to this in Mississauga, but there was nothing in Toronto, and it didn't make any sense. I was like, every single sport that comes to Toronto, it just ends up thriving. We had, at that time, the Raptors were starting to pick up again. TFC had just came out.
Right.
The Blue Jays were obviously the Blue Jays. When they're winning, there's 50,000 people every game.
Yes.
So I said, well, there's a void here. There must be boxing in Toronto. So I started doing my homework and finding out what used to happen here. And then I said, Sam, let me manage you because it seems like you could use one. And
Did you have any managerial experience when you said that, Sam?
No, I had just relationships.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
outside of sports, right? And when I meant manage him, I didn't really mean like manage his in-ring stuff.
Right.
I think he already had a promoter that was kind of being handled, but more like helping his brand grow. taking him out to the right people, getting like his face in front of things. And needless to say, he ended up declining. He actually
Really?
said, we're friends. I don't want it to come between our friendship, and I think that you don't have enough experience. And I was like, I respect that. That's fine. So then there was another athlete by the name of Tyler Asselstein, and he was a really talented kid, but he was terrible with confrontation. And not in the ring, but I mean out of the ring. So if he had an issue with his coach, he would disappear, or his promoter. So I was like, listen, you need someone to just deal with your confrontation. Let me manage you. And then I told Sam, well, let me work on this guy. If I show some improvement on this guy, then I think we should revisit and talk. Long story short, that's exactly what happened. And then I ended up managing Sam from 2012 till 2015. August 11th, 2015 was my first show, and that's when I switched over to promotions. So when I was managing fighters, I knew that I was going to promote shows, but I just didn't know enough information yet. And with this game, it's so cutthroat, and it's a real underworld. And if you don't know what you got going on, like, you could just get chewed up and spit out so quick. So I really had to learn who's who in the industry, learn how things work, what our industry costs, like what's a boxing economy run like. And then once I had kind of not fully figured it out, but I had a real good grasp on it, I was like, okay, well, I'll start getting into shows.
So Mike brought something up before he came in about just, the memories of boxing for us growing up. I mean, I remember going down in Girard and watching the Evander Holyfield and Tyson fight and how huge boxing was. Do you find that the boxing scene has kind of fizzled out to, a certain group of fans? Do you find it still has its bearings?
I think it has its bearings, but just everything has changed. The world has changed.
Right.
You can watch it on your phone. There could be a hell of a lot of fans sitting on the subway watching a live stream. Like, it's not like before where the world stopped and everyone went to a bar or they went
Right.
to your friend's house. So I think that we don't notice it as much because there's a lack of media coverage here. If you go even across the border to Quebec, every single day in the newspapers and on TV, they're talking boxing. In England, it's cutthroat with soccer between the two of them. Like, here's a prime example. When Sam fought Amir Khan, people knew about it here, but they didn't really talk about it. Obviously, he's coming in as the B-side, so they're not talking about it that much. But when we went to the media workout at the mall in Birmingham in England.
That's my wife's hometown, by the way.
Okay.
Shout out to the Brummies.
There was probably 2,000 people in attendance for the media workout outside. But what was interesting was we went back to the same mall the next day just to shop. Had nothing to do with anything else. And Sam couldn't actually be in that mall and comfortably shop without being stopped repeatedly for photos.
Wow.
It got to a point where like we had to leave. And then at the airport after the fight, from the point of him initially landing at the airport to getting on the plane, he took just under 200 photos, and they had rearranged his whole plan, changed his seat, done all these things, and nothing was pre-scheduled. So it just shows how they value the athlete over there and how big the sport is. And that just comes down to media coverage. And I understand why it's difficult to get media coverage here. Like, we're talking, this is a city with all sports and they're all top level. So you're competing with a lot. But that's my job to break into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is a city of big boys. We got every major sport in full effect with a lot of commerce behind it.
But not only every major sport in full effect, almost every major sport where they're in the runnings to win.
Yeah.
Or
you're
they
right.
are winning.
Yeah, they are
Right.
competing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Like 5-6 years ago, 10 years ago, a lot of these franchises were kind of in the dumps. Financially, they're okay, but like no one ever talked about the Leafs. The Raptors would come and go a little bit. Now they're so strong. The Leafs are strong.
Yes.
TFC just won. The Jays have kind of slid back a little bit, but a couple of years ago, they were rocking.
I think the love for boxing still exists, though. I mean,
100%.
Yeah, I've talked to guys that I know, young guys too, and whenever boxing comes up, there's almost like there's a nostalgia, but also there's almost like they miss it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like both. It's like that memory. Like, people, when you say boxing and you describe some of the different moments that you remember through that just the different moments of victories and losses and all the different stories following boxers over the last couple of decades, people just like, man, they live it up. There's something about it, and they relive everything, and they remember exactly where they were and who they were with and what they thought or what they lost in terms of money if they were betting. And I just think there's some sports. I think it's amazing because, like, it's not a team sport. It takes total team to get in that ring and be able to perform and to be able to, outlast your opponent essentially. But for someone to go in there and just know that this guy's trying to take my head off and I'm trying to do the same, there's something about that.
Yeah. I think one of the other big issues right now is there's just so many different belts and different ways to call yourself a success in boxing that there's so many fights going on, but there's not as many interesting fights because there's not as many things on the line. Like if I sit here and I flip a quarter, we could just keep flipping the quarter. Oh, it'd be interesting to see who gets heads or tails. But if whoever gets heads or tails walks away with a Mercedes, it's a whole different ball game.
The stakes.
Right. It's a whole different ball game. So when you got guys fighting in Mississauga, in Toronto, and they're fighting guys that are unheard of, and they have their little support team, or even on a bigger level, if there's guys that are with Showtime and guys that are with ESPN and they're fighting fairly unknown guys, yeah, you have your support, you have your diehards. But at the end of the day, when those two guys end up fighting each other and it's a promotion company versus a promotion company, or it's a TV network versus a TV network, it's unifying a division, even if you're not a boxing fan, it gets bigger than boxing. Like in UFC, look at Conor McGregor and Khabib. That's like some stuff that's way bigger than the sport. We're talking about religions, we're talking about like continents, we're talking about racism, like things that make people that aren't sports fans get involved because there's something on the line.
Yes.
So I don't think so much it's ever a sport dying, it's risk for reward dying. And I think so many people have followed Floyd Mayweather's formula to play that safe route, but the difference is he's just a one-of-a-kind talent.
Exactly.
And you can't think or believe that you're that one-of-a-kind talent if you can't actually prove it. And they go this motto like, oh, let me protect my O, and I'm undefeated, and I'm smoking mirrors my whole career. But when you get to the top, you find out who you are, and then it's just a whole bust.
Yes.
Right.
Like you may as well just know where you are in the sport and then keep plugging along like a Samuel Vargas, where he takes domestic fights and he wins a lot of them, gets on the international stage, gets starched a couple times, comes bounce back, then realizes, okay, well, that guy beat this guy, but I've come so much further. Now I was up against a guy that was supposed to starch me, but I almost beat him. Now I'm in a fight where guys used to get beat by these guys, and he's a little bit older. So then he wins at Madison Square Garden. Then where is he at, right? But the thing is, half these guys in this sport would never get there because they wouldn't have took the first, second, third, fourth loss.
Yes,
Right.
Yes, protecting the O, O. I know. If you're going to have high stakes, then that means that you need willing individuals to get in there to put something on the line.
You can't play poker and win every single hand, but you can win a game.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's maybe it's just redefining it, that, your career defines who you are, is your legacy. It's not just whether or not you won or lost. I mean, it's how you take it. I mean, there's no way to avoid a loss. It's impossible.
No,
it's impossible.
No. In life, everyone takes losses.
Yeah,
for sure.
But the other thing is, a guy like me has to facilitate an economy where there's no boxing in Toronto.
Right.
Maybe there's boxing on the outskirts, but there's nothing in Toronto. So if I'm putting on enough shows where guys that used to say, I don't know if I'm going to turn pro, now can facilitate living at the base level of the Toronto economy because they're making enough money because they're fighting frequently enough.
Yeah.
And then they take that next step up where we're bringing international fighters here. Now we get maybe some media coverage and TV networks come behind it. Eventually, this thing starts rolling where these guys can make real money, where kids are not going down to the Scotiabank Arena.
SBA.
Scotiabank Arena and saying, hey, Dad, I want to be Sidney Crosby one day. No, they're going to say, hey, Dad, I want to be so-and-so one day. He's a world champion, and he's rich, and he's doing this, and he's doing that.
I think what you said, too, about there being so many belts, so many different types of, categorically, it's just spread out so much that it's not streamlined, where you just see, like, that is the mountain. That guy's got up there, I want to go up there. But if the landscape is just, there's all these little hills, and everyone's on top of it saying, I've arrived.
Yeah, I understand both sides. Like, I understand everyone wants one champion. But the world's a massive place, and it's still a business behind it. So there are promotion companies that exist in different continents that I think can make a world champion with their organization that they work with. And in theory, eventually what happens is you have to force these things to unify. Like when you look at the World Boxing Super Series, when they had the cruiserweight tournament last year, and Usyk fought. When he fought, he was a Ukrainian, undefeated cruiserweight that had 2 belts against a Russian undefeated cruiserweight that had 2 belts. Outside of boxing, they're basically almost in a war between the two countries. And now these two warriors are going to go in Moscow and fight each other to find out whose O is going to go. Like, that stuff never happens. And if they didn't have their own world champion belts, it wouldn't have had the same value because one of them would have been at a disadvantage. One would have been the champion, would have been the challenger. This was almost like 2 even men are at an even platform, and we're getting 2 countries together, and we're going to collide in the middle of Moscow and see what happens. I'm surprised no one died in the stands.
Man. Rocky IV all
That's
over.
great. Yeah, there you go.
Let me
man.
ask you, what you were saying earlier about the industry jumping in. I mean, there's a number of industries where there are no rules. Okay, there's no college or university, and you learn, okay, I do this and I do this and I do this. This is just literally uncharted territory for the most part. And when you break in, you got to try to find your information, and you don't know if you can trust the information. And I say that because there's something about, it takes a certain type of individual that says, there's no beaten path here. I'm going to figure it out. What is it that you rely on for that? Like, for you to do that. And I say that knowing that the majority of people, they have chosen things that are safe. You know, the majority of people have chosen a safe path. You know, they've had ups and downs, but there's always someone there that's thinking, man, I should open up this, or I should start this, or I should actually, like, I could fix that. But then it's outside of their 9 to 5, or it's outside of their regular thing. And we always chalk it up, oh, it's just a hobby. You know, like, take your risks in your hobbies and your, like, you know, your church league, hockey league. Okay. Aside from that, what does it take for someone to say, I'm going to figure this out?
But I think that's what I enjoyed doing. It wasn't so much the boxing. It was figuring it out. That's what's fun. The fact that you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, I love going against a promoter that has a university degree that knows nothing about boxing. That's fun. It's so fun because he has no knowledge of streets. He has no relationships with athletes. He's probably double my age. The athletes look at him like a mark. So it's like, there's so many things you can bring to the table that they don't know. Now, granted, they might be able to speak better. They might be able to walk into a corporate setting and get a deal that I can't get done just based on image. But that's when you just keep beating on the doors and just start showing numbers. And if you can prove stuff, then they eventually have to take those meetings. But it's a level of confidence you have to have in yourself that you just say, I'm just going to do it. It doesn't matter if it takes longer. It doesn't matter if it's more work. You know in your head that it's going to get done. It's just a matter of time.
How much do you consider the outcome? How much do you consider, like, you know, is it like, are you gauging all the time? Okay, I'll see today. Oh, I got to know today, so maybe I shouldn't do this. Or is it more like, do you have like a long-term trajectory and you say, I got to accomplish this, and no matter what's in between, I'm going to eventually get there?
I did my first interview to a news reporter at my show on August 11, 2015. And I was so excited. I was like, wow, some guy wants to ask me questions about boxing.
Yeah.
And I told him 5 years from this day, we will have the highest level of professional boxing in Toronto. And we're a year and a half away. In that time frame, we ended up bringing Floyd Mayweather here and doing Badu Jack Stevenson at the ACC. And I think that was the benchmark to say, okay, this city can take this and this city's ready. Now we just got to get our ducks in line. But going back to what you said, I think it comes down to just outside of what you're doing, you have to know yourself in anything you do. And you really got to know that if you're going to sign up for something, you're going to finish it. And that's just, it might take longer than you expect. It might take shorter, but you genuinely have to believe that whatever you're signing up to do, you can do.
Yeah. No, that's great. I know it is. It's funny. It's that simple, but it's that powerful.
Look at this podcast.
Yeah.
You guys got to know in your head that 100% there's going to be people that get off the Joe Rogan podcast and say, who are these guys?
Right.
Who are these guys up north?
Absolutely.
And two, hey, it might not happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
It could.
Yeah.
Who knows? You
Yeah.
never know. Like, the internet's crazy.
Yeah.
Could happen next week, could happen next year. But like, if you're not doing that, then what the hell are we on this podcast for?
No, absolutely. You know, like,
Exactly. I
like,
think we should get Lee to help us promote it.
no, for sure. Yeah, exactly. No, what's amazing about the message, and I mean to your success as well, is that a lot of times someone said people just have an idea, and oh, you know, for example, the Uber. When Uber came out, someone can say, "Oh man, I had that idea." Well, that's great, but an idea is only an idea. It's what you can do to push it, and every single day, you know, you got to be able to come out and push it. And sometimes you could be doing something for years, and it's like, I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. However, a lot of people fall off, right? And that's what kind of defines the successful people to those that are not, is that they're not willing to go for the ride, right?
Everyone wants the reward.
Absolutely.
Everybody
man.
wants the reward.
No one wants to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one wants to work.
I mean, yeah.
And people say they want to work until they bump into someone that really works.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But you must see it also complete on the physical side. Like, I mean, when boxers come to your gym, right? You can probably like see it after a little bit if that person has what it takes or that person's going to give up. I mean, I'm
To be honest with you, I can't really say that I can see that.
okay.
Because I'm a strong believer, and if you wanna be the best at something, you got to find out who's the best at it right now, and then pick their brain, mimic
Exactly.
their behaviors,
Right.
and see how they did it, and then add what you think could make it better. So if I look at the gym and I'm thinking, is that kid working hard? I can't even gauge that. What I have to do is I have to have a great relationship with someone that I know has worked hard and has made it all the way to the top, and then they can gauge if these guys want to work or not.
right.
And I trust their opinion. Like, that's one big thing is with success, you have to have, like, you can't do it on your own. You have to have a few people around you,
A team.
that you really, really can trust.
Right.
And you know that what they're good at, you can trust that they're going to educate you, or they're going to tell you what you don't know, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Everyone needs someone to push them along. Just, even if it's just to say, whisper in your ear, just stay in. Just don't stop. Just stay in.
No, for
you know?
sure.
You know, for myself, like, I'm 5'9". I played college basketball. I had a coach in high school who said to me, "Be the worst on the court." He told me, find the court where you're the worst. He told me, don't go to the local YMCA where it becomes easy, where you play to the level where you know, where your bad habits will never get exposed. You'll actually get applauded for that little fancy pass, whatever.
What was it, Muggsy Bogues?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Was he 5'7"
He
or
was
5'9"?
5'3". No, Muggsy
No,
Bogues.
no, he's not.
Yes.
5'3".
Look
No,
it up.
I don't-
Muggsy Bogues, 5'3".
Look that up.
5'3". And Spud Webb, 5'7". Yeah, you look at it right now. Muggsy Bogues, 5'3". I'm not even joking.
Muggsy, 1.6 meters. Come on, give it to me in
Come
feet.
on. What is this? Someone
Jerry.
do the conversion.
There you go. 1.6 meters to feet gives us 5.2. Actually,
Yeah.
he's shorter than 5'3".
Yeah, he's actually
Wow.
just under.
You kind of pick him off your shoulder. Hey, buddy,
Yeah.
how are you?
He's like the standard mama height.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy's playing in the
And
NBA.
he didn't he dunk as well? Muggsy
No,
dunked?
no,
I don't know
no,
about that.
Spud Webb. Spud
Now we're
Webb.
getting
I'm thinking
excited.
Spud
But that whole thinking of be the worst on the court. Okay, don't find a place where it's easy for you. Find it where you're under duress, where like
But you got to have a lot of confidence to sit in that position all the time, being
Yeah.
at the worst.
Right.
Yeah, I started, but what ended up happening is I started to love it. I actually enjoyed it because really quickly I could never rest. I could never take a break. I always had to be in my stance. If I looked to the left, the guy was gone on my right. They burned me. I had to do everything perfect, and I actually loved the challenge of having to output at the highest octane that I could possibly do. To me, there was something that it was almost, there was a high of it that you exhausted and it took everything, you know. So I've never kind of understood the person who's trying to conserve, who wants to cut corners, because I found it personally, the more you output, the more rewarding it is, you know. So the guy who works hard, it's almost like it feeds, and you want to do more, and you want to do more.
Right.
You know?
Last year was the first time that we actually got to, I actually had to hear of your name, right?
Okay.
And that's when you, I was mentioning it in the green room when the whole Floyd Mayweather thing came. It was
Came to
last year,
town.
right?
It was last year,
Yeah, when he came
was
down.
it August?
No, it was May 19th.
Okay.
Yeah,
whoa.
I remember that.
Almost
It was
a year already.
big deal. How did, now you co-promoted with that. How did that all happen?
Okay, so 3 years before, in 2015, Adonis Stevenson fought here. Adonis Stevenson is promoted by a promoter in Montreal, who I looked at as a mentor, Yvonne Michel. Extremely talented, very, very successful. He made boxing in Canada. Like people will say Interbox did, but he was the brainchild behind Interbox, and then he switched over to his own company, and he put on shows with 16,000, 17,000 people in the Bell Center, and these are times where nowhere else in the world other than Las Vegas was that happening, and it wasn't even with like crazy household names. It was a household name in Quebec, but Lucien Boutte was doing big numbers, and then he did big numbers with Jean Pascal. Long story short, they came and promoted a show at Ricoh Coliseum in 2015, September 9th, I believe. I was supposed to be involved in that show. And all the way up to the press conference, when I got to the press conference, I was sitting at the back, and I wasn't invited up to the front. And I learned how this industry works, how someone's shaking your hand, they're gassing you up, and then right at the finish line, you did everything you could to put them on, and you are not, let alone credit, because I don't give a shit about credit,
Right.
Yeah.
but you are not involved anymore.
Not even in the room.
So I was like, okay, whatever. I'm new, I'm young, so what should I expect? I just did one show at that point. So fast forward 3 years later, Adonis Stevenson has I don't know if it's an old criminal record or what the reasoning is, because I know since he's been charged, he has been in the United States, but he was having difficulty getting in the United States. Because of his past, he was getting very, very, very negative coverage in Quebec media. He was scheduled to fight Badou Jack, and Showtime had announced the date. They had put it everywhere. The fight's happening May 19th, and it was supposed to be in Montreal. Well, this guy's gone publicly on the record saying, I'm not fighting in Montreal. Yvon Michel is trying to cover his footsteps and basically say, no, it's happening in Montreal. It's going to be at the Bell Center. I log on, and I'm like, weird. You can't find tickets nowhere. So then I was like, I'll just keep an eye on this. So another couple of weeks go by. Still no tickets on sale. That's okay. They screwed me 3 years ago. Well, they didn't screw me. I took it as they screwed me, but I got to be on my toes. And 100%, this guy can't fight anywhere else but Canada because he can't go anywhere else. So they certainly are not going to Vancouver. Where are they going to go? Probably somewhere he's been before. They're going to come to Toronto. So I know that in Ontario, we're still a growing sport. Our commission can't facilitate more than one event on one date.
Wow.
So what do?
Wow.
Lock them up. Get that date, because they're not thinking 3 steps ahead. So I called the commission. I booked a show in Niagara Falls on May 19th, anticipating that they're going to come, which it unfolded exactly like I thought.
Nice.
Nice.
Showtime called Yvon Michel saying, what's going on? Where's this fight going? Yvon Michel calls me and says, hey, they're looking at Ontario, but you have the date. Can you do me a favor, and can you move your show? And I was like, absolutely not. No. 3 years ago, I would have said, yeah, certainly, man. Anything for you.
Yeah.
No, I said, no. If this show's coming to Toronto, it's coming with me involved. I got to be the lead promoter, and I will get a new date 2 weeks later, and I need financial compensation for moving my show, and I need financial compensation for running this thing. And it wasn't about the money. It was more about positioning myself to have a spot, basically to have an at-bat, and an at-bat for Showtime, for Floyd, for Leonard Ellerby, the CEO of Mayweather Promotions, for everyone from that side of the border, just to say, okay, well, this kid's involved. What can he do? Now, obviously, it would have been nicer if I had more than 3.5 weeks, but we grinded it out and did just under 5,000 people at the ACC. Were you guys there?
No,
we weren't there.
Okay.
I missed that.
Yeah, but we were very
But you made it
close.
to Rec Room?
Well, yeah, because it's one of our
Yeah.
clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was another thing.
Yeah.
Like, the people in Quebec side, and I can't fault them, they're doing what they can to cover their ass, and they're pushing as hard as they can to make sure that they're way more relevant. And they were working with MLSE trying to keep the weigh-ins at the ACC, and MLSE obviously wanted to keep it at one of their properties, but I said, no, not a chance. We're going to Rec Room. Rec Room's new. We're working with them on other things, and it's set up. It's like cookie cut. They had the screen, they had all the audio, they had everything there, and they were available. And who the hell didn't want Floyd Mayweather in their building? So
Yeah.
we worked the deal out, and I definitely think that having the press conference and the weigh-ins there got a lot of coverage, got a lot of good media coverage, and it snowballed the thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Nice. Okay, so what's coming up right now? I mean, like, I love what you shared earlier about what it takes. You make a commitment, you get in, do a lot of hard work. Sometimes people get in your way. You gotta, even if they try to trip you, they try to misdirect you. You gotta find your footing. You gotta figure it out. What are you looking to do right now? I know we're probably still in that. Yeah, we're still in that 5-year timeline. What is it that you'd like to see? Like, give us an idea. I mean,
Toronto needs a world champion.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
They need a world champion. Whether that world champion was organically born in Ontario, which will take time. That'll take a lot of time because the economy is still very, very, very behind. We need more trainers up here. We need more gyms. We need more
resources,
media coverage, funding, everything. And it takes time to build that up. Well, on the other side of that coin, though, Toronto is so multicultural that you can bring someone from another part of the world here, and within a year or two, they're now Canadian and they're now Toronto loved.
Right.
Yes.
So I can bring a guy that, as long as he's speaking some English or learning it.
Well, I mean, Drake's album always helps to learn the language.
Yeah, right. They can listen to it on the plane. I'm sure Air Canada did a deal with Drake too.
Yeah. There you go.
You can bring a guy here and make noise.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you searching for like the next like Tyson kind of thing? Like, you know, like,
Well, I don't know who the hell wouldn't be
Yeah.
if you're a boxing promoter. But
no, but I mean, like, it's like, I don't know. To me, the heavyweight aspect of boxing is kind of really science to me. I mean, there's a lot of middleweight, lightweight. What's your thoughts on that when it comes to like?
the heavyweight division is money.
Okay.
And that's what it all comes down to.
Right.
These guys make enormous amounts of money. I don't know how close you follow it, but Tyson Fury just fought Deontay Wilder in December. Tyson Fury was a hell of a story. He started fairly unknown. He was an Irish English traveler, and his family went back from like bare knuckle boxing generation on generation. Wow. Wasn't one of those Olympian perfect chip type of prospects, but he was a huge human being. He got knocked down a few times in his fights. His chin was very suspicious. Ends up coming along the way with not like a huge promoter in the game. Ends up getting the underdog fight against Vladimir Klitschko. Hadn't been upset, I think, in like 12 years. Just ruined the heavyweight division of boxing. It was boring.
Right.
And
total dominance sometimes is boring.
Tyson goes to Germany 4 hours before the fight was supposed to happen. Now, there's probably about 50, 60,000 tickets sold to this. He calls the fight off. And they say, what's going on? Actually, Lennox Lewis was there, and he was involved with it because Klitschko had put almost a foot of foam underneath the ring to slow Tyson down because Tyson was a boxer.
Oh, wow.
And Klitschko didn't want to be outboxed. So they wanted to slow him right down by putting all this padding underneath the canvas. So he said, no, I'm not fighting. And basically handcuffed Klitschko to having to remove that foam. After the fight, they weren't really sure how it was going, and the decision comes out and Tyson wins. Everyone thought Tyson was going to win, but you're in Germany against this guy. You really got to win, right?
Right.
Yes.
He ends up winning. A close friend of mine is involved in Tyson's career. He tells me that Tyson is under the impression that once he wins this whole world is going to change. Everything's so different up there, and he gets depressed. Falls into a state of depression, was supposed to have the rematch. Rematch fell apart on injuries. Ends up blowing up to about 430 pounds, completely out of shape.
Holy smokes.
And is retired doing coke,
Oh, man.
drinking, tried to kill himself in a car accident. Long story short, he wakes up one day and says, I'm going to do this again. In 18 months, this guy gets down to 245 pounds and goes into the ring with Deontay Wilder, who was 39-0, knocked out every single person that's ever been put in front of him. And he gets a draw, which everyone in the world knows he won.
Right.
And they were each paid $4 million.
Wow.
Now, I'm sure there was a lot of back-end money through like pay-per-view buys and everything. But the money was about $4 million. Now fast forward to today, he just signed a deal with ESPN, 5 fights, 80 million pounds.
That's like $160,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 135,000 Canadian.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my conversion's off a little bit.
Yeah, that's from
Yeah.
a long time ago.
It was about 103,000 US.
Yeah.
Sorry, 103 million.
Yeah.
Now, the other side of the pond has Anthony Joshua. He's breaking into United States. He's fighting June 2nd, I believe.
Yeah, he hasn't fought in the States yet. Right?
No. So he's fighting Madison Square Gardens. He's getting paid $32 million for that fight, and he's fighting a fairly unknown fighter that's from New York that's getting $9 million.
Wow.
So when you say, am I searching for a heavyweight? I'm searching for an investor before I search for a heavyweight.
Yeah, smart.
Because we need some big bucks to bring a heavyweight to Toronto that could really, really make noise in the division. And Toronto's a city where, unless you're messing with the top, like, people don't care.
Right.
Like, as much as, listen, the Marlies are still really good hockey players.
Right.
But no one's going to the games.
It's true. It's true.
Like, and the Marlies, if you put a team like that in Peterborough, or you put a team like that in, I don't know, Windsor, they'd probably sell 9,000, 10,000 tickets because it's so elite for their economy. But Toronto is just like, well, no one cares. If it's not that top level, then we're not getting the coverage. And that's what I noticed with the Jack Stevenson thing. It was so easy to do because we're beating down on doors saying, come cover this stuff, but this stuff's not there yet. But as soon as you have that top level product in Toronto, they just jump all over it.
right.
Let me ask you, you're part of setting up that infrastructure, creating the program of development. You know, if boxing is a product, you're developing this product to be the best thing that it can be, to increase the chance that someone's going to come out and really rep the country. How much of it is it on that? And I mean, is the curveball just a talent? Is just a talent, and someone could come. You know what I mean? I asked,
All stars have to align.
Yeah.
Yeah. All stars have to align. Like, listen, Rock Nation had a kid, Dusty Harrison Hernandez. 30-0. He's 24 years old, hasn't fought in 3 years. He got a release, I think 4 months ago. He signed to me. So there's a guy named Spoons who's from Washington, D.C. He's one of Drake's main security.
Yeah, we know him.
So Spoons actually needed some dudes to just make sure when Drake was out in D.C. that he was good. So Dusty was the guy that was called. Dusty rounded up a bunch of guys to make sure that nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, there's a not so nice side to DC.
Yeah.
It's not just the White House.
But on the other side, Dusty is not some little ignorant punk. He can have a great conversation with Drake, and when Drake loves boxing, and then they're running together. And next thing you know, they're buddies. And with the release and me signing Dusty, all stars have to align. Dusty comes up here. He's 30-0. He's 24 years old. He didn't like the United States route. Canada verifies anyone from the United States. You get Drake behind it, MLSE. This guy could be the star. Maybe he moves here. Then what happens? Everything's ready to go, and Dusty goes down to Miami for a couple days to just have a break, and then he's going to come up here, join training camp. We got a fight scheduled. He comes back home to his door kicked in.
Oh.
Yeah. 4 unlicensed firearms, a bunch of dope, a bunch of other stuff. And you know what? Like, and that's the difference between a guy like me and a guy that's 65 years old sitting in an office in New York saying, cut this kid. He's an idiot. We want nothing to do with him.
Right.
You can't do that, man. You got a 24-year-old kid that only knows punching people in the face. That's his life. That's what he's done since he was 7 years old. His dad is no different. And he had a lot of money coming in when Rock Nation was paying him. He hasn't fought in 3 years. What's he going to do? He's in the hood. Like, it's not like he's going to go down the street and work at your local convenience store for what's minimum wage in the United States? $8, $9. This guy was fighting on HBO. Like, when he goes out in public, he's got a reputation to uphold. So sure enough, he gets tied up in this stuff.
Yep.
And I understand that coming from all types of different backgrounds and still being young and kind of relating to things. I understand that. Like, you don't give up on a kid like that. That kid could fight his ass off. So he could still be the star.
Right.
And then when you look at the same version that I just signed in Canada, Castillo Clayton, welterweight, was an Olympian, represented Canada. He didn't represent Halifax, where he's from. He represented Canada.
Yeah.
So where does he go to turn pro? Quebec, because Quebec has the biggest economy and they can afford to turn him pro at the time. But he can't even drive in the streets in Quebec because he's a Halifax kid that has a colorful past, very dark, covered in tattoos, very urban. He's getting pulled over and driving rental cars that his manager has rented him, but he's getting pulled over by the police, thrown up on the hood of the car. You're a drug dealer. You're a pimp. You don't speak French. What are you doing here? And it's the same crap. You can't blame the kid for being who he is. So that's why him and I have now, he needed to get out of Quebec. Now we bring him over to Toronto. He's Canadian and he represented Canada at the Olympics. He shouldn't be going through that stuff in his own country. But in Toronto, you don't really go through that stuff. The Raptors have really kind of catapulted how like urban living and urban economy is here. Like it's cool to be that heavily tatted gangster looking dude walking down the street.
There's no stigma in our city.
No, bro. When I finally did a deal with him, I was like, you know what? Every good man should have a nice watch. You should take your time, go around looking for a watch. I'm not talking get some big ass Breitling covered in a bunch of diamonds and shit. Like you're gonna be in a meeting. You carry yourself well. Guys sometimes look at people's wrists.
For sure.
I was like, go check out a watch. He went downtown Montreal. The damn jeweler wouldn't let him in the store.
Wow.
They wouldn't let him in the store. And he knew why they weren't letting him in the store. Of
course, yeah.
Come down to Sean's at Watchfinder. You don't see anyone but troublemakers in that place. And their money's good.
Right. Man.
Oh, man.
Unconscious bias.
So I think what I'm trying to say is if you look for that perfect prospect that came out of the Olympics that has never got himself into trouble, he's really marketable, good looking, speaks well, seems like he's educated, all this stuff, and you think this guy's going to punch holes through people's heads, you're going to be looking for a long time.
It's like trying to find the perfect woman, as they say, right? Or the perfect man. It doesn't exist.
It just doesn't exist.
Yeah,
but what's crazy is what makes that perfect woman or perfect man is life experiences.
Right.
So if you don't have any of those, you're not going to be that perfect person.
That's good.
So
Very true.
So I look at these guys, and sometimes I look underneath rocks. I don't look at like, oh, who's this perfect guy? Who's in the Olympics? Let's go through those 3 placing guys and see who's the best one. No, sometimes it's guys that didn't even go to the amateurs. Maybe they're born on a year that it didn't make sense for them to go to the Olympics because it's every 4 years. Yeah. And then you find out, okay, who's really marketable, who's really comfortable on a mic, and like, because that's what we need in Toronto. We can't have a guy that can fight his ass off that can't talk right now.
Yeah.
Because you need coverage. So it's been fun trying to find who that person is, but I got a couple guys on the radar right now that I think in the next 12 to 18 months will be a world champion and they'll be living here.
That's awesome.
It's exposure. I mean, like relating it to basketball, there was a time where it was so dry, and like no one knew anyone who went to college, had a D1 scholarship. Then one guy eventually got it, and then everyone thought, okay, it's easy. I just got to make my own little mixtape and do this or whatever. Guys got into 5-star camps. Stefan Marbury had a camp that would go on every year in the 90s, and it's just belief. The one thing that changed is belief. And then the guys who had some D1 experience, when they played pro or had a chance to, the privilege to, they came back. They opened up a development program. Guys like Mike George and Vidal Masai. There's some key. For boxing, I've noticed. I'm a Scarborough guy, and I remember growing up, there was no boxing gym in Scarborough, not one. Okay, and we were dying. Like that's probably I might not have ever told you. Not boxing is probably my biggest regret. Okay, I know I'm built for it. I had gas in the tank. Fast Twitch was my middle name. Okay, but there's some other guys that we would just put on gloves. We'd bare knuckle a little bit, and we weren't. I guess alcohol would be involved at sometimes too. But some of these guys could. No one has any idea that they would box. I had a buddy. He ended up working at Walmart. He had about 5 kids, smoking up every day, but he could take on anybody. He was our Kimbo Slice in a way. But he's just a guy that could do that. In the basketball scene, there's guys that could probably go just, they have that ability, but they've never had any infrastructure, nothing. I say that because just exposure. I had so many conversations when we were young, 13, 14, 15, just saying, okay, we just wanted to walk into a place that was a boxing ring. I remember once, I don't even know how I found it. I was like 17, I was in Mississauga. And Mississauga, the parking lots are massive.
Yeah.
The buildings are massive. And on top of every building, there's like a boxing gym or some type of martial arts dojo. So I remember walking up into this boxing gym, state of the art. It had like 4 rings, all these like whole wall of just wraps, like everything. And I remember thinking like, this is like the Mecca and there's no one there because it's in an industrial neighborhood in big, vast Mississauga. And I remember thinking, oh my, like if this was in any part of Scarborough, there'd be like,
It'd be packed.
it would be packed, man.
Yeah, there's 2 ways to look at that. In Canada, man, you're just, I guess where I was from, it was just hockey. As soon as you come out of the gate, you get skates, and it's just hockey.
You're primed for that.
Yeah. Whereas in other parts of the world, they don't have ice, and they don't have money.
Right.
So what do? You either have a sport that has a ball, or you have a sport that has gloves.
Yes.
So in South America, you're either playing baseball, basketball, football, or punching people.
Yes.
And here,
Or soccer. Right?
yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Football.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Come on, Mike.
I know. My bad.
That American football is expensive.
Yeah.
You ain't playing that without a bunch of shoulder pads and a helmet on.
Yeah, right.
No, but I think here the difference is it's groomed to believe that it's so recreational and like exercise driven that like it's like brutal if
Right.
like a 10-year-old and
Right.
another 10-year-old are in a ring punching people.
Yes.
Like I'll leak a little bit of information because I don't know when this podcast is going to go live, but I just got back from Vancouver.
Yeah.
I'm expanding now to Vancouver.
Nice.
Congrats.
So I talked to a couple people out there about like strong influencers, big liquor reps, venue owners, as well as a group of guys that do like there's a big horse race, and it's for a younger generation. Everyone gets dolled up and they go watch this horse race. They're getting about 10,000 events. So I was like, listen, you guys came last year and did an event at Woodbine. You asked for my help just for awareness and influencers. So I'm going to flip that card back on you and say, I'm coming to Vancouver. Can you help? And we're talking about guys that are about my age, and all of them were so reserved. They said, I don't know if people are going to take to it. It seems really barbaric, 2 guys punching each other. And I'm just like, what the hell?
Are you kidding
Wow.
me?
Like, I just came back from LA, in East LA, where 7 and 8-year-olds are beating the shit out of each other. And this is normal. Like, we're in a gym with like 40, 50, 60 kids on a Saturday, and this is just how they live. And then those same people will turn around when that guy's 20 years old and say,
What is that? Oh my goodness.
Oh, give us a second.
Sorry about this. I don't even know how this happened.
I recognize this song. It's
Is
a
it?
promo video of some of
Yeah.
our training.
There we go.
Okay, yeah.
I thought it was just an effect. That
Yeah,
you
I
throw
know.
it in there
What's going
without
on
my
here?
story. It was just going to bang. There's the punchline.
I was trying to figure it out. I'm watching the audio. Going, where is this going?
DJ Jerry, you're just mixing in a soundtrack right there, a musical score.
I was like, this podcast is getting real intense. You're getting sound effects in the background.
I wasn't even paying attention to it. I was so into the story. Okay, so you're saying,
But long story short, there has to be a point where there's a little bit of thicker skin. Like these Canadians, you've been bred to believe that you can work your ass off on that ice and you can have bare knuckle fights where the whole stadium stops, comes to their feet to watch these bare knuckle fights, which is the most barbaric,
yes,
unorthodox thing that could ever happen.
On
and they get
skates.
2 minutes to 5 minutes for a
Yeah.
penalty.
Wow.
But then if someone raises their hand on a street, it's like, oh my God, we got about 50,000 in lawyers and it's just going to go on for 3 years.
Yes.
And it's like, I'm not trying to say that you should be going around being barbaric in the streets, but what you need to do is you need to toughen up the kids and say, listen, like, this is a sport. This is a way of living for people all over the world. If you think that you're mentally going to be strong enough to get to the top level and fight some guy that's been doing this since he was 4 years old, you got another thing coming. You got to train these kids differently because the people in South America have been through some hardships. And we can't be coming out of these beautiful homes and just like, oh yeah, well, you know what, I want to be a world champion one day. No, you got to start putting in work from a young age.
Right.
And I think what it comes down to, going back to what you said, is these gyms, they need more teachers. They need more people that have experience. They can't just have some guy that came out of a fitness program and said, hey, I'm going to teach people how to box.
Yeah, and I got a
You
major.
don't know
I got
what
a
it
major in
takes.
kinesiology.
Yeah,
and-
I don't know what
okay.
it takes.
Right.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Yes.
I can't teach boxing. The only person that can teach boxing is someone that's been transplanted here, that's been in their whole lives, or the people that are starting to live it now in this generation.
Yeah.
And I think when that happens, when there is multiple gyms that are top level, like real gyms in the city, and it'll create more of growth.
Yeah, I like that.
awesome,
See,
yeah.
for basketball,
Look at basketball.
Yeah, it's a perfect
like
example.
10 years ago, nothing was going on really up
Yeah,
here.
no,
Nothing.
not at all.
And now look at the drafts.
Yeah.
They're all coming from up here.
yeah, it's a pool. It has a rep, worldwide rep, that there's this potent pool of basketball players that know the game, okay, that are athletic freaks, and they know what it takes to get to the next level, and they got the work ethic, and I think probably the X factor is the guys that were able to get into that next threshold. They came back and they started in their grassroots, because I know
Yeah.
a couple of them personally.
Yeah.
And they did, man, with no pay or nothing, just
But I think
3 times a
before
week.
that, it comes down to what is going on in this country with multiculturalism, and with when all these immigrants came here and started building Canada, then they all started realizing that like racism wasn't really that needed, because everyone's helping each other and they just live beside each other. They're all neighbors.
Yeah.
Then they start sleeping with each other.
Yeah.
And they start making these kids.
Yeah.
One kid's from Ukraine.
The beige babies.
Like Ukraine and Jamaican. Well, that guy's going to be able to fight, jump, be 6'9". Like
Exactly.
these, all these people
With farming
and,
hands.
And when you look at these generations and these cross nationalities in Toronto, like I truly believe that Canada should and could have the most athletic bodies in the world,
Yeah.
but they're just lacking resources.
Yeah.
The pool is so much smaller. We got 30-40 million here. The States have over 300 million
Right,
people.
right.
That's 1 in every 10 has to be better than those other 10. Like
Right.
it's difficult, but somehow we're doing it.
Yep.
So I think it comes down to that we have the knowledge, we have the smarts, the talent, but we're just lacking budgets to make more growth because we just have less people, so we're working with less of everything.
Yeah. And 2 things touching on interesting side note. I love the way you equated racism. It's a choice. It is a choice. You know, you choose to be racist, and at some point it became inconvenient because that's my banker. That's the person
Yeah.
I go to school with.
You can't really be racist here.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
whole other thing. There's a huge lesson in that. You should write a book on that. But the other thing is, if I could ask you, you know the street level, and at the street level, there's something about just seeing guys play on that asphalt, seeing kids with a tennis ball up against the school. Okay, and boxing is one of those things that it's a beautiful sport. It's this master tactician that just to me, I if anyone sees it up close, if you just watch a boxer train, how they prep and get ready, there's ultimate respect. You get an idea. There's a reverence that they have for what it is. I had a chance to actually work out of Camden, New Jersey for a bit, which is one of the roughest cities in America. It's across the Ben Franklin Bridge in Philadelphia. Boxing's huge in both ways.
Massive.
So as much as kids can pick up a ball, they can walk into any boxing gym. Okay,
There's
and-
27 gyms in North Philly alone.
Yeah, exactly. And,
Holy
and
smokes.
it's just a culture they just watch.
All of them are free.
Yeah,
Are
just
they?
All
walk
of them
in.
are free.
Exactly.
Wow.
And they go in.
They're not like, oh, how can we siphon money out of these
No,
members'
I know.
accounts? No one has
Let's get
any
these-
money.
let's
get
They're
these-
government funded, or they're just landlord given. And like when I brought Sam to get his coach in North Philly, we drove up there, the Badlands gym, and it was Billy Briscoe. And I walked in that gym, and I was like, my jaw dropped, man. There was
Yeah.
about 80 people working out, and maybe 10 of them were over 18. I'm talking like
Wow.
3-4 year olds in a ring, holding pads while a 6-year-old's hitting those pads.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is like, we got adults in Canada that can't even hold pads, like these 3-year-olds.
I know, it's amazing. Just to give you an idea.
But anyway,
And
finish off your story.
And you get the older folk. You know those guys that they would normally go to a bar or they'd go to the garage and comment, "Oh yeah, the flex capacitor," whatever.
Yeah.
And they'd hang around by the gym.
Yeah.
They'd be there, and they might have boxed themselves. And there's like 3 or 4 generations of boxers, and it's just something that it's part of the neighborhood. Okay, it's exactly. It's not a businessman who opens up his perfectly clean boxing gym and is trying to extract a year of membership from mommy and daddy. Okay,
And that's one of the main things, like in Canada, when you said martial arts schools across Mississauga, first thing I thought about was karate schools.
Yes.
Because Sam's got a son and he's going to karate. And he tells me, like, he's like, yo, forget that boxing gym, man. That's
big
like
buddy.
your biggest headache. Let's put in a karate school. These guys are making a mint.
Yes.
I'm like, no, we can't stray, man. We can't stray. But like, there's something about a real gym, an organically like cropped real gym with that real
stench.
yeah,
you can never get rid of that.
But that real talent and what they're doing in there. Like, there's a famous boxer, well, he's pretty famous, named Nicky Furlano, and he boxed in Toronto. He didn't want to train no one nowhere. And then we got in touch with each other, and he was like, I see what you're doing down there. He's like, I want to come train there.
It's amazing.
And that's knowledge that you can't buy.
Yeah.
Right.
And guys like that are the guys that we need in gyms, because those guys, they fought at the CNE. They fought instead of 12, 15,000 people. They fought, like he fought Aaron Pryor Jr. in Toronto. And these are the type of things that if we plant these seeds in Scarborough, in Mississauga, downtown, in North York, then the economy can grow.
Yeah, and it lets them embrace it, let them pick them up. Yeah, you plant seeds, and there's a chance that it can actually grow to something. It could be something.
And when parents bring their kids into the gym, they just understand. When they see a Nicky Furlano, they're just like, okay, well, it is a little rough around the edges. If this isn't the place for me, then we got to leave. But there will be places when you put them in areas like where I'm in. My gym's in Regent Park.
Yeah.
There's some shitty situations and family and some real rough spots.
Yeah.
And mommy is trying to pay for 3 kids because dad's locked up or someone's on dope or something, and the kid doesn't know where to go after school. So come here, and then he bumps into Nicky Furlano, and he doesn't know that he's not supposed to do anything other than punch people in the head.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an unorthodox after school program, but it's still
But it's the
very
program that's
necessary.
keeping them in the gym instead of
Very necessary.
selling crack down at
Yeah.
So for the
Sure,
kids,
more
for,
Or the
something.
gang life.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just so convenient.
no, for sure. So for anyone that wants to find your gym, where do they find it?
358 Queen Street East.
Okay, and the name of the gym?
Hard Knocks Boxing Club.
Hard Knocks Boxing
Nice.
Club.
Yeah.
And you also got some featured events coming up as well.
Yes.
March 17th at the Hulu Theater, Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that isn't actually my event.
Okay.
It's Top Rank's event. But I am involved with it. I am starting to work with Top Rank a little closer. Samuel Vargas is fighting Luis Collazo. Massive fight. It is on St. Patrick's Day. It's a little unorthodox. The
29th.
fight's on a Sunday.
Yes.
It's not the 16th. It is the 17th. The fight is on a Sunday.
At the Mattamy?
No, I'm still talking about the 17th.
Oh, the
at
17th.
Madison
Okay,
Square Gardens.
sorry, man.
I found a kid from Ireland who's just, he's a product. He'll be a superstar.
Perfect.
So he's fighting there.
Yeah,
Really?
for St. Patty's.
St. Patty's Day.
Wow.
And then we come back 2 weeks later,
Okay.
Mattamy Athletic Center, formerly Maple Leaf Gardens.
Okay.
We were trying to find a home. The Danforth music hall shows sell out so quickly, and we can only pack 1,100 people in there. We needed to know what the next step was. We tried in December to go to Coca-Cola Coliseum, formerly Rico Coliseum, and it was good. MLSE is amazing. I love working with them. I can't wait to work with them again. But we all sat down after the event and just accepted that the building's just too big for what we're trying to do yet.
What's the capacity there? What can they
You
fit?
can have it set up to be just under 8,000.
Okay.
The way we had it was just, I think, like 4,000 and change. We cut it in half,
Yeah.
so we could still keep the scoreboard. But we had 2,000 bodies in there, and it felt like 500. It's just the
Yes.
atmosphere wasn't there.
Right.
So we need
That
that bridging
vibe.
point between like 1,100 to 3,000 people.
Yeah.
And I think home is nowhere better than Maple Leaf Gardens, where Muhammad Ali fought
Yeah,
George
yeah,
Chuvalo.
yeah,
There
exactly.
was big fights there.
Right.
Yes.
It's dead ass central.
The history.
Yeah, and there's some good solid partners. The Holiday Inn right beside is treating me good, and it's just a nice place when you bring international fighters to just drop them off, and they can get
Yeah.
lost in the city. They can walk down Eaton Center, go up
Yep.
and down Yonge Street, and everything's there. So that's, I think, going to be my more focused home, where I'm going to be doing regular shows between
Nice.
that 2,000-3,000 benchmark, and then as it starts growing, we'll grow into the bigger venues like Coca-Cola Coliseum, and when there's a mega fight, we go to Scotiabank.
Yeah, you breathing new life into Maple Leaf Gardens.
That's
I like
awesome.
that. That's really good.
And mad at me, like
Yeah.
sorry, not mad at me. Ryerson.
Yes.
Ryerson's been
Yeah.
great,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
They've been great, and
Great
I
facility.
guess with the cutbacks, with the funding, like it helps them to just start bringing things into there. I know they're not really doing anything other than Ryerson team events. So when you're bringing other sporting events in there, it's helping their like Ryerson Eats and their food and beverage and angle and their production angle for the university and stuff.
Ryerson's
So-
like a mini city. It's
Yeah.
never dead there. It's always foot traffic. There's so
Yeah.
much going on.
Yeah.
So much going on. Okay, that's pretty amazing. We know events. We
Yeah.
know events. We've seen everything, top to bottom. Pack the house. That's what it is. You
Yeah.
better have a small house.
Yeah, and
squeeze
pack
them
it.
in. Say sorry, folks. You got to come next time. That I know it might seem like let's
Or
make room for this
here,
space.
sign up for this membership or go on Facebook Live. Check
Yeah,
it out.
Exactly.
That's right.
You
Next
want,
time, make sure you don't be a procrastinator. Buy your tickets early.
you want it to spill over, even if it's just 50 people. You need that. That's the epitome of vibe. That and some good music and having food. Okay. You have kind of those three things, and you have a great show. People are going to come back and they're going to bring their uncle, and they're going to say, we got to do this. Even just, these neighborhoods that we're talking about, if they could even catch a whiff of this in their local area. So if there was a way in good weather, like, Albert Campbell Square by Scarborough Town Center, just different spots, just throwing an idea to you that kids that are just traveling the RT or the subway could just look at what's going on there. Because I
Right.
guarantee you it's never been at their frequency. Where they are, what they're doing, they might catch it. They might hear other older people talk about boxing. If they got a whiff of it, I'm telling you, there's probably a good handful that will hunt it down. Yeah.
Well, I think like I was going back when I first started getting on the show, and I was talking about how we have to have a risk for reward. So maybe what comes down is a well-known undefeated fighter, maybe from Hamilton or maybe from Mississauga. Well, he's got to cross paths with an unknown fighter
Yeah, exactly.
with an undefeated fighter that I have in Toronto.
Yeah.
Where people are saying like, hey, you know what? Yeah, we grew up in Hamilton. Screw this guy in Toronto. Oh, we're
Yeah,
from
right.
Scarborough. Screw this guy. And then we do
Exactly.
like a little press tour where we have like a media workouts in Scarborough, in Toronto, in Mississauga, and then just create that internal buzz where people, they not only want to come to a cool event, all of a sudden something's on the line.
Yes.
Right.
Raise the stakes, man. Hood to hood.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, look, really thank you for coming down with us today. I mean, I also want to jump into you. Also, it's Forever Young Inc.
Yes.
That's your name.
Yes.
So, I mean, do you want to quickly just tap into that a little bit? I mean,
Where do I start?
I mean,
Yeah.
because that actually brought some journeys for you to.
Oh,
also,
it's brought everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on my stomach, man.
Oh, hey,
That's
nice.
the
Wow.
Nice. You got that?
that's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that shop made me, man. That shop kept me out of trouble. That shop taught me so much about life, about business, friendships. I don't even know where you start with how many hours have been underneath that roof. Like, it's crazy. I've seen some cool shit that money couldn't buy. Like, I was in the studio with Justin Bieber as he recorded Time for Bed while we're tattooing him, and to watch a talent like that and then him giving like input while he's just mixing things with the producer, being in Drake's condo, tattooing him, hanging out with old friends.
I mean, that's opened doors for you, eh?
Yeah. Like Trey Songz in between sound check rushes over so we can tattoo him.
Really?
Yeah. What's his name? He would kill me if he knew that. I forgot his name.
Wow.
It's all good. It's the morning. It's the
Kevin
AM.
Garnett.
Yes.
Okay.
Kevin Garnett.
KG.
Legend.
Yes.
Legend.
Absolutely. Anything is possible.
Here for Caravana. Wants to be tattooed 3 a.m. I wake up a tattoo artist, go pick him up, drive over there, and they smoke so much weed in my shop. He's not in the NBA anymore, so I can say that.
Yeah.
Smoked so much weed that I had to. I was contemplating closing the shop the next day because I just couldn't get the smell out of it. It was so bad.
Wow.
But like, I mean, there's stories on stories.
But how did you get it to that point where you started getting that exposure, where people started noticing whoever young?
I opened the shop and it was up the street here.
Is it still here?
No,
Okay.
it's now on Queen Street. I
Okay.
opened the shop and it was Dovercourt. Sorry, Davenport and Young.
Yeah.
It was to the point where I had like senior citizens walking by and like opening the doors saying, "This isn't a place for a tattoo shop. Get out of our neighborhood, you little punks." So we ended up moving it down to Queen Street. And once again, it was like, go to the top. I'm opening the shop. I don't know what a tattoo is supposed to be like.
Right.
I've got a couple, but I don't know what's a good tattoo.
Right.
So I go to the biggest tattoo convention in the world in Las Vegas, and then I start seeing how good tattoos are. I was like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
Like, how is this happening? How are
Right.
these guys this good? Start getting personal with them. Start figuring out, well, what do these guys need that I can offer? Start finding out who's a good tattoo artist. How do I get a good tattoo artist here? Eventually, I end up with this kid who's very, very talented. He's from Korea. And what's interesting about Korea is tattooing's not necessarily illegal, but you have to have a full medical degree to be able to do it. Because
Wow.
if you're breaking skin and you're opening skin, you have to have your medical degree. So you have to be a doctor to be a tattoo artist there. So that's just not happening. All these people that are just interested in art. Oh, and also art is a prerequisite in post-secondary. So anyone that's going to university has to be taking art. So you have all these kids that are coming up with an amazing work ethic. Like, Asians are just nuts. They just they do not stop working.
Right.
So
You're right.
these Koreans are working very hard in a first world country, all have art degrees, and now they want to do a profession that's illegal. So you're not just doing that knowing that your door's going to get kicked in and you're going to get raided and arrested. No, you're only doing that if you really, really, really love it. So he comes over here and now he sees, okay, I got this market where I wanted to go to the States, but it wasn't as easy. And he realized that the American dream wasn't exactly as good as the Canadian dream.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, I got this talented artist now. All I got to do is brand him. So when you start calling all these influencers that I used to know through nightclubs, and just guys that book talent and stuff, and I'm saying, listen, bring these guys in. We're going to give them the free tats, but they got to post about it. And
Smart.
a lot of celebrities, they just go to what they're told by their agents or by their friends. So a lot of them don't have good tattoos. It's not like, oh, they're really famous, so they
Right.
must get amazing tattoos.
They don't have time to source it.
Nah,
They're doing their
maybe
thing.
maybe get sourced to some guy that's shit, but he just
Yeah.
knows a guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I started pumping out these amazing tattoos on celebrities, well, it started snowballing really quickly. And then with the other people that worked with me, everyone had kind of like an in to entertainment, and we just kept pounding the pavement, like, who's next, who's in town, let's do this. And
That's
then we started
awesome.
doing like creative campaigns. We did an apprentice. He still works for me now. One of my tattoo artists was like, let's do like some nuts stuff. So it was when Rob Ford was under the needle for smoking crack.
Right.
So the apprentice wanted to be a tattoo artist, and the guy that was apprenticing him said, you got to get a tat of Rob Ford portrait smoking crack. So he gets it on his leg. Well, we went above and beyond that, and we called every publicist and told them that we're doing this. Well, it landed the front page on the Toronto Sun. So that kind of put us in a little bit. And then when Jose Batista hit that home run,
Right.
I knew that concept. I was like, that shit works, man. So I was like, grab that photo of the Batista bat flip.
Yeah.
Let's find out who the hell wants this. There's got to be some dumb diehard fan with a big chunky pale white leg that we can crush this on.
Yeah.
So then, sure enough, found him at like midnight, and then we were at the shop at 9 a.m. But this time, instead of just calling the publicist, we called all the TV networks and said, you got to come cover this. So then we had Breakfast Television, we had CP24, we had Global, and they all came. And then a lot of these little creative campaigns were the ones that just kept us very, very, very relevant.
That's awesome, man.
And then once you've built a bit of a brand and a bit of a resume, then it's just like the
Becomes a little bit
go-to
easier.
place.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Really smart. Really smart. Yeah.
for
You know,
sure.
you know how it works, man. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you've shown it through this as well, just the process of, going to something and just grinding it to make it work. Amazing. Look,
Thanks,
thank you so much for having you come down today, man. We've learned a lot. And I think also a little self-promotion for yourself. You want to just push out just how people can find you.
Lee Baxter Promotions. My personal Instagram, I post like once every 2 months. So, and I have a reason for that. I got a little pet peeve with Instagram. I only follow a certain amount of people, and I want to follow people that you take that 5-10 minutes every morning and you get up and you look at your phone, and everyone cannot not do that. That's just what life has become.
Right.
You should be turning that phone on, looking on your Instagram, whether it's like your toilet time or you just can't get out of bed. But whatever you should be looking at should be making you get out of bed and grind a little bit harder. You shouldn't be looking at like what Buddy ate last night, or what this chick's wearing, or 3 other chicks trying to angle themselves to look like someone they're not, or someone that tuned their face to look like Kim Kardashian, but she looks like some. I'm not even going to go there, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So I only post when it's really something that I want people to look at and be like, wow, okay, yeah, I'm going to get up in the morning and grind a little harder.
Yeah.
Even if it's my opposition, even if it's someone like another promoter or someone that friggin' is hating on me or something, I want them to look at it and be like, damn, man, he's getting a little bit harder. Or fuck, man, he's really pushing.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So we got some IG tips here right now as well.
So you can, anyway, going back to that, you can find me. Just Google my name, a bunch of shit will pop up, and then
Baxter.
something will follow me.
Amazing.
And if you want to see me in person, I'm on Queen Street, whether it's east or west, 358 Queen Street east of the gym, or 522 Queen Street west at the shop, tattoo shop.
Okay.
So that's great. That's
Sounds
great. Awesome. Jerry, any last words? Because I know Jerry was the man that actually opened the doors
Jerry
for us to
is
connect.
the man behind every photo that's just...
Yeah, he actually shot me a link last night of some of the photos that he took.
It's insane what he's doing.
Isn't it incredible?
I love coming to the boxing. I mean, at the Danforth Music Halls where we first met.
Yeah, look at that.
So...
Like, it's just nuts.
And I didn't realize how good these guys were in the boxing. I just thought it was just people beating each other up, and that was it. Yeah, I mean, I watched Ali, growing up, things like that. But when you're right there at the ring and you're watching these guys box, and you're getting, sweat dripped on you when they're getting smacked around, whatever. But you watch how technical they are and what they're doing in the ring. It's just. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I sometimes put the camera down just to watch what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then I'm here to take pictures.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, but it's pretty amazing. So where some people may think it's barbaric, when you actually sit there and watch what they're doing in the ring, and some of these guys are so good at it, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I think what's barbaric is when people completely lose respect for it and just put 2 randoms in a ring.
No, I know.
Totally, and just like, we're gonna make some money from Tom from so and so against him from over there, and see who can sell more tickets, and we can make some money off this. But that's so disrespectful. Make some guys that can actually fight.
No, these guys, it's just like Samuel. He's good. There's a number of your guys that are really good. Just watching them in the ring, it's just like when these guys know what they're doing, and they're just technically just picking off their opponent, punch by punch, and they're just waiting, and then another punch here, and you're just watching. You can see them just looking what they're going to do next, and it's pretty interesting. It's actually up my game in terms of photography.
Nice.
Because
I'm glad we're pushing each other.
Oh no, for sure.
Because I'm really trying to make sure that all the lighting and all the production's right on point, so Jerry can hit that photo. I'm like,
no, it's just it's the speed of these guys too. I didn't realize how fast it was, and now you're having to watch their shoulders, watch their eyes, see what they're going to do next, and you only have that moment to get that one shot. What's Jeff's name? The other photographer that's there. I can't remember his last name. He's really good at it. And I've taken some, cues from him and what he does. I've got him on my Instagram anyways, but he's really good. So I've learned a lot just in terms of just watching what people do and try to catch the moment. So I was impressed. And then what these guys do and how they put on a good show,
Thanks,
It's
bro.
awesome. I really enjoy it. So I'm just waiting for the next one.
Well, March 29th.
There.
Let's do it.
Just the sound, even the sound of just
You
the,
guys got to come out, man.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
100%,
I'm
man.
just thinking about
100%.
that. The footwork, the breathing, everything, man.
We'll
It's
put you
so-
right behind him.
Yeah, sounds good.
See you
On his
ringside.
back. I'll be on his back. I'll hold your light. We'll get some good
We'll do a
overhanging
live
light.
podcast right from there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we may actually, you know what? We could think about doing something there.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool, guys.
Yeah, thanks so
Well,
much,
thank you
man.
for having
Amazing.
me.
And
Yeah.
This was fun, man.
let the world know Lee Baxter Promotions.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We're gonna need to hire him for our podcast.
Yeah,
Help us
exactly.
out.
You got to
Okay.
promote this, man. Get us past 22. Awesome.
Okay. Thanks for
bro.
coming out, dude.
Thanks very much, Lee.
Yeah.
My deal is I'm gonna try and make sure that I'm the most like I don't know what segment is this.
You're gonna be episode 7, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
I gotta crush everyone's numbers.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny?
Seven's a
Neil,
good number.
Neil, right now.
Mr. Forrester.
Yeah,
I'm going toe to toe with Forrester.
Yeah, he's
All
actually
right.
he's actually trying to take that ranking right now. Who gets
Yeah,
the most
and-
views?
Son of a gun's probably got 2 weeks on me. He's got more time. He always has an advantage.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's
It's not how
awesome.
you start, it's how you finish.
Yeah,
Right?
there you
You
go.
know what I
There you
mean?
go.
I think we got to get all these guys in the ring
I know.
because Neil challenged Joel. He said that he
right.
would get in. Yeah,
That's
that'll be
right.
fun. That's another episode.
Neil's
So
a bully.
Okay, thanks, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks
Sounds
very
good,
much.
buddy.
Take care.
Okay, peace.
Make sure to drop by next week.
Let's go.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Let's go.
It's time to give a shout out to our sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Sentinel Security Plus. For all your premium security needs, visit sentinelsecurityplus.com. We got some questions for you.
Holla at your boy.
What do you stand for?
Yo, Constantine, it's Mike.
Hey, what's up, chicken butt?
Pop quiz. You know what the most common name in the world is?
No clue, man. Bob?
Muhammad. And we have ourselves a Muhammad Leela coming down next week.
Hey, isn't he that journalist who covers the worst war zones in the world?
Did you know he's escaped death reporting the news 3 times?
Whoa.